Unfortunately, another active weather pattern will be coming to the United States over the next 7 to 10 days, which is bound to bring even more severe weather like damaging winds, hail, and even a few tornadoes to parts of the United States. But the good news about this weather pattern is that not everybody is going to be dealing with severe weather over the next 10 days. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly where you can expect showers and thunderstorms and where severe weather will be a possibility, in addition to this big weather pattern change, and who is going to be staying dry here in the country as we go throughout next week. Let's begin first though with what's happening across the United States right now, and we'll begin with the East Coast, which is an area obviously that has been very active over the last 24 hours. You can blame this active weather pattern for this large-scale low pressure system that's just off to the north of Michigan, and this is what's responsible for bringing a few tornadoes from anywhere from eastern Michigan back over into Ohio and even into Maryland, where we end up seeing a few tornadoes yesterday, and there was even a large tornado in western Maryland, which by the way was not expected, but we had a warm frontal boundary that was in this area, which actually kind of supplied a bit more wind shear, and that was able to get a few tornadoes going. So really kind of crazy stuff there. Today is not going to be as bad though, at least we hope at this point. 24 has been crazy obviously, but we do have a risk for severe weather for the rest of this afternoon back over Maryland. We already had a tornado warning in Maryland literally just before I started recording this forecast around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. So crazy stuff there. We're still dealing with at least some circulation in some of those storms out there, but I think the tornado risk should be close to zero today. And then back over in the southeast, more showers and thunderstorms there, and then back over in Oklahoma and even into the Texas Panhandle, we could also see a few severe storms over that direction. Otherwise, pretty dry across most of the country. The majority of the cloud cover currently is on the East Coast, so most showers and storms should be over there for the remainder of today. Yesterday was obviously crazy. These are all the storm reports from yesterday. We had a couple of tornadoes back over in Michigan. I don't think either of those were actually tornado warned, so unfortunate stuff there. We also had a couple of tornadoes back over in central Ohio near the Gambier area, just around the Columbus area. So we had a couple tornadoes there during the late afternoon into the early evening, and then we had multiple tornadoes back over in Maryland. Notice 26 different tornado reports. That does not mean we had 26 tornadoes, but it does mean at least 26 reports of tornadoes or tornado damage did occur. I think overall we probably had a half a dozen to a dozen tornadoes yesterday. We also had one in Alabama. You won't see that on the map here, but there was one over there in northwest Alabama that was confirmed by radar. Big swath of damaging winds as well, but we had severe weather anywhere from Texas all the way back into the northeast, so definitely pretty interesting stuff there when it comes to severe weather. Today's threat of severe weather overall not probably gonna be as bad as yesterday, even though yesterday was only a marginal threat of severe weather. We do have 3 slight risks. We have one over in Oklahoma and Texas, one in Florida, and then also the other one back over on the East Coast. Main concern overall will be damaging winds and large hail. Can't rule out an isolated tornado back over here in the northeast or the East Coast, but it probably will not be the same setup as yesterday, because yesterday we had a warm frontal boundary, kind of creates more shear. Today that warm front not really close to this severe weather setup, so I'd say overall today not really expecting much of a tornado risk, but an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. Now going into the rest of this weekend and into next week, the weather pattern is going to change entirely. This is the jet stream, which gives us an idea of the weather patterns that are happening across the United States. Notice we have this ridge back over in the southern plains. This is kind of keeping things dry and warm down that direction. We also have a low pressure system that's back over north of Michigan. That's what we're referencing at the beginning of this forecast, and also a pretty strong jet stream with a jet streak still located back over in the Midwest. Once we go into Friday into Saturday though, the weather pattern is going to change quite a bit. Though we're still going to have high pressure back down near the Gulf of Mexico, we are actually going to start to see an opening door sort of trend here across the central and southern plains, where severe weather will start to become more of a possibility as we go into this weekend and eventually into next week. But the good news is that we are not going to have any really organized severe weather setup, it looks like, for this weekend. Though we could see some severe weather, there's no large scale low pressure system that's going to be, developing into like some sort of tornado outbreak or something like that. Once we go into Sunday into Monday, that low pressure system will continue to move slowly to the east. We will continue to have high pressure back down in the southern plains in the upper levels. That should keep at least many areas on the drier side of things, but with that said, we are still going to have some forcing over here, back over in the central plains, the Dixie Alley, and even back into Texas, which should still allow for showers and thunderstorms despite having that high pressure system in the upper levels. Once we go into the middle of next week, we'll have to start watching this low pressure system that's going to be back over in California. This could be our next big storm in the United States, but right now this does not appear like it's imminent. It's going to depend on when this jet stream starts to dip a bit further down to the south, this one over here in the northwest. Once this kind of catches this low pressure system, that is when I think our next big event will be, which right now now that appears as if it'll be sometime around Thursday, Friday, or Saturday of the tail end of next week. And then after that, it looks like the weather is going to get very, very active as we go back into the middle and as well as the end of June. But that would be, again, sometime next weekend and not this weekend. But that'll be really the next time to watch for. Also, we have a threat of severe weather tomorrow in the Central Plains. There is a slight risk. Tomorrow, there is going to be a chance for an isolated tornado in Nebraska or northern Kansas. We will have activate an emergency live stream if needed for that, but that would be our last live stream until this 7-day vacation that I'm going to be on from Saturday until next Friday, so just keep that in mind. For tomorrow's severe weather setup, the tornado parameter values will give you kind of an idea here of where that tornado risk might reside. And I think that greatest corridor will be here in southeastern Nebraska and into a very small sliver here of northeastern Kansas as we go around tomorrow around about 4 to 8 o'clock or so. That's when I'm expecting at least some level of a tornado risk to exist. I think the risk will be low, but it's not zero, so definitely stay weather aware. One of the reasons why I think it'll be low is because the moisture content in terms of dew points is going to be really struggling to get up here into this narrow section of both Nebraska and Kansas where this warm frontal boundary will be located. So once we go late into tomorrow afternoon, the dew points will be in the low 60s, but I do think a lot of the storm activity will be elevated tomorrow. Anything though that can get surface based will produce the potential for a tornado, especially if there are any discrete supercells, which I think we'll have a few tomorrow. So this is right around 4 to 5 o'clock tomorrow. Storms will fire up right over here in eastern and southern parts of Nebraska. Anything that can stay discrete will have an elevated potential at producing a tornado. Once we get closer to about 5, 6, 7 o'clock, those storms move to the southeast, eventually approaching Kansas City, where the main concern will be damaging winds with an isolated tornado potential. And eventually, as we go into the overnight hours, the severe weather threat will dwindle, with mostly just some showers and storms across the central and even parts of the southern plains. Once we go into Saturday, this active weather stretch will continue across the central and southern plains, where another marginal threat of severe weather is in place. That includes Colorado, back into Missouri and Arkansas, where more damaging winds, hail, and maybe an isolated tornado will be possible. Beyond today and tomorrow, storms will continue across the central and southern plains. That low pressure system will kind of spin more of these disturbances back into the central and southern plains, keeping things active through the weekend. Once we go into next week, though, showers and storms really just going to be sitting around there across parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Kind of looks resemblant of what we just saw, last week in terms of showers and storms. Once we go into Tuesday into Wednesday, we might get some passing showers in the Midwest. Nothing looks significant there. I would be watching over here in the southeast for an active weather pattern by Wednesday into Thursday with plenty of showers and thunderstorms. And then by the time we go into Friday of next week, that is when I think our next big severe weather event will be, either Friday or Saturday. Notice this large-scale low-pressure system up there in the upper Midwest. Main concern right now for Friday would likely be damaging winds, but keep in mind we are still ways away from that event, so stay tuned. Once we go into Saturday into Sunday, that is when another large-scale low-pressure system looks likely, and it does look like we'll need some live streams as we go past June 14th, so definitely make sure you're staying weather aware after June 14th. Even over the next week, I'd stay weather aware. We're not going to be live much at all over the next 7 days as I will be on vacation, but if we need to go live tomorrow, that's a possibility. Saturday through Friday do look unlikely at this time. Just a heads up, our new ShopMaxVelocity.net store is up and running at ShopMaxVelocity.net. The link's in the description. I do want to give you a reminder, our limited release 250,000 subscriber merch, both our hat and t-shirt, will be going away tomorrow. We had an issue with our domain last night. Technical issues kind of made this pushed out to tomorrow now. So if you want to pick this up, your last chance will be 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night Central Time. After that, it's gone forever. So if you want to pick this up, again, ShopMaxVelocity.net. We also have 2 new items on the Drunk NATO collection. You can get a wine tumbler and as well as a pint glass. We've added those as well, which are pretty cool for the Drunk NATO collection as well. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and like the video.